I'm out of gas, guys. That's the show. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. First topic, though. I gotta put y'all onto this comic book. This graphic novel, in fact, that Cat put me onto. As soon as it wants to come up. All right, here it goes. Have y'all heard about Heartstopper? It is written and drawn by British author Alice Oseman, and I hope I'm saying that right, Alice. It was a webcomic originally, and then apparently she did a Kickstarter in 2018 to get into print form, and I'm in love with this series. I've flown through all four of the first four volumes. Y'all know how y'all felt when y'all first got a hold of Scott Pilgrim. I want to say Matt put me on to Scott Pilgrim. And he that's when he started getting comic books, and he's like, hey, have you checked out the Scott Pilgrim book? And I was like, no. And so I borrowed it off him, and I read it, and I fell in love. And I was dripping on every word. In fact, I'm fairly certain I borrowed all his copies. And in the very last, I think all of it was out other than the last one. And when that sixth book dropped, I copped like nobody's business. It gives me big Scott Pilgrim vibes, guys. Now, before I say anything else, and actually, I gotta say something else first. So, for any of you listening out there, take the sunglasses off, the lights are bright. For any of y'all listening out there who has heard any of that anti-Semitic bullcrap that Ye is spewing, for any of y'all listening to the sound of my voice, if you can hear my voice and if you support that man, turn this podcast off. We don't support Kanye on his side. I'm done. I've been so done with this fool. My mic is redlining so many times. You can hear it throughout the history of hyphenation. I did an episode early on right after he canceled his canceled the Life of Pablo tour. There was other times when I was talking about Kanye. I defended Donda. I didn't listen to Donda 2 at all because it was unlistenable. And then he went away. I didn't say anything about the Pete stuff. I was willing to just whatever, let bygones be bygones. Let slavery was a choice be a manic episode thing. But this is the line, and finally, the day has come where Hey Mama came on a CD that I burned years ago for work. I was playing that CD the other day. Hey Mama came on, and just like when I hear Robert Kelly's voice, I walked up to that MFer and I pushed skip. I am done with Kanye West. If you support Kanye West, turn this thing off. Okay, now that that's out of the way. Sorry. Also, I say Scott Pilgrim, and I know y'all might get excited, y'all comic book fanboys, be like, oh man, Scott Pilgrim, that was an awesome adventure action story. This ain't that, kids. This is a series about my man Charlie Spring and Nick Nelson, how they meet and fall in love in high school. I'm just going to take it right from Wikipedia. It also tells the story of the many side characters and their relationships. Yes, it is about two boys falling in love in high school, and I can't get enough of it. If I didn't say Kat Chinetti put me on before, Kat Chinetti put me on. And Kat's got some good book recommendations. Shout out to Kat, man. I am a fan. So don't go in here thinking you're going to get video game references and Scott Pilgrim fighting evil boyfriends. No, you're going to see actual boyfriends, and you're going to see them being intimate in a kissy way. And it's still fire. It's still fire. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but when I think about the medium of comic books, growing up, the medium of comic books always meant superheroes and villains. And then every now and then in Wizard Magazine, I would see something where they were like, oh yeah, this little indie comic book Blankets is really cool. Y'all should check it out. Never read Blankets to this day, but that's one of the first one that springs to mind. This indie scene of comic books where these comic books were being written about things that weren't necessarily good versus evil, life on Earth ending, awesome powers being granted to these people, and their decision whether to fight for the side of good or the side of evil. Scott Pilgrim kind of was like that in a way where obviously Scott had some kind of powers going on, Ramona had some kind of powers going on, but it was also a very young adult based drama about whether or not Scott Pilgrim would end up with Ramona. That was the whole thing we were all rooting for. You wanted Scott to end up with Ramona, and even though Scott was big trash and he did not deserve Ramona one bit, but by the end of the series, he had come to terms with a lot of that and had realized his fallacies while dating this amazing girl. I don't want to save in the middle. I don't know why I did that. Sorry. Heartstopper, you get introduced to Charlie, and Charlie is the one gay kid in class. And this is all off the top of my head. He's the one gay kid in their school. And they are in Britain, I believe, because she's British. It's a terrible accent. And I don't know why I did the deep breath. Charlie was outed the year before, accidentally. That's a little bit of a spoiler. I'll just say accidentally. And he got tortured for it pretty much. And because of this, Charlie was kind of ostracized for a while. But there was this one boy that Charlie knew. He was straight, but he was one of those straights that like to be gay on the low. And I don't know if that's a proper term, so I apologize to anybody I might have bothered with that. But I'm just saying, he wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted to be straight in public, but he's with Charlie. He wanted to be gay. And Charlie, who had been bullied and just been put through the ringer for being outed and being gay and being the only gay boy that these kids knew. Charlie had no other option, so Charlie hooked up with him. But at the same time, this boy Charlie was hooking up with was super rude and mean to Charlie. He wanted it when he wanted it, and he wanted no parts of Charlie otherwise. So Charlie was literally dangling in waiting for this boy to hit him up for when he wanted to hook up, when he wanted to play, but he had no real relationship. Now, when he meets Nick, like he had known of Nick, but when him and Nick start talking, him and Nick become fast friends. And Nick is also straight, and Nick is a jock. He plays rugby, and he has his friend group, all straight boys. And, he never really had any feelings that he may be gay. But he meets Charlie. Him and Charlie hit it off. They become best friends. They're hanging out, and immediately, and this is a credit to Alice's storytelling and also to her artistry, her illustrations. You can tell they like each other more than friends. Like I could hang out with Shiv, I could hang out with Marcus, I could hang out with Bane, I could hang out with Anthony, Thomas all day long. Love those guys. They're my dudes. But I don't love them like that. Okay? I don't miss them longingly when they're gone. I don't think of them be like, I do Matt, because Matt lives in New Zealand now. But I don't think of them lovingly and be like, man, I wonder if Anthony's thinking about me right now. I don't do that. That because I'm straight. I don't think of my friends that way. But you can see the chemistry flying between these two instantly. And so the whole first book is a build-up of their friendship. And he gets Charlie on the rugby team because they need an extra player, and Charlie's actually kind of decent as he learns the game. And they spend time together, and then Charlie goes to Nick's and meets Nick's dog and loves Nick's dog. And they I want to say they were playing in the snow at some point and had some fun. And they have there's these moments where they're playful with each other. These are high school boys. And it's like, when I was in high school, it was like, yeah, you punch somebody in the arm, like, yo, it's your boy. You try to fight when you're all playing around. Like they are wrestling and having a good time, and Nick picks Charlie up, and Nick and Charlie's like, oh, Nick, stop it. And I'm not mocking, but that's kind of how it came across in the text. And Nick's like, ha ha ha, I'm just having a good time, because Nick really thought they were having a good time. And Nick felt something weird too. I don't want to say weird. Nick felt something too, but he didn't know what he was feeling. He thought he was straight. Simple as that. So more and more, they spend all this time together, and then as the book builds to its climax, as I knocked over this marker, as the book builds to its climax, the boys attend the party together, and then they're alone together. And I don't think there was any drinks involved. They're alone together, and they spend all this time together. And Charlie's sister, who knew about Charlie hooking up with the other boy who was rude. Also, Nick does this super cool thing where Nick sees that boy harassing Charlie early on in the book, and Nick's like, nah, He puts a stop to it right now. He's like, nah, leave him alone. Charlie's my friend, and you're going to leave him alone. And essentially, Nick gets that dude to finally leave Charlie alone after all this time of Charlie literally being at his beck and call. And Charlie's very grateful because Charlie, of course, is developing feelings for Nick because he knows how he feels towards boys. Nick doesn't know how he feels. So they're alone at this party. And then they're alone and they're talking. And then they kiss, man. And it's beautiful. It is simply beautiful. And this is why I love the art form of comic books. Because there's so many stories to tell with art books. With comic books, it's not just about heroes versus villains. As much as I love that classic stuff, I like that this medium can showcase this gay-ass story as much as they do. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because that's only volume 1. There's 3 other volumes that is out. Volume 5, the last volume, as I understand it, is going to be coming out in February of next year. So I can't wait to see how Nick and Charlie's story ends. Apparently there's other books out there about other characters in the universe. I think I haven't went to explore any of those, but I've been dying because my man Aaron, man, he's King Krakoa on the TikTok, and he is always talking about he's reviewing comic books, and he does a lot of X-Men stuff, and he's also a fellow Tim Drake head. Shout out to you, Aaron. Lets me use Marvel Unlimited. Shout out to you, Aaron. He will be on the pod. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to get on the pod. We're going to talk some comic books. Since the guy I used to talk about comic books is out of here. So, win some, you lose some, man. What's that I always say at the end of the pod? Something about get that negativity out of your life. No matter what it may be, no matter what you got to do, you got to do you. Yeah, so it'd be good to talk comic books again on here. And I know Handsome Bane reads a ton of comic books too, but also I see Handsome Bane bi-weekly now doing Rasslecast. And honestly, between the group chats and Rasslecast, I probably sometimes feel like I talk to Handsome Bane to Eric as much as I do Angel sometimes. So there's that. Can't recommend Heartstopper enough for y'all. Please go check it out. I was actually able, if y'all have a library card, I was actually able to borrow all 4 volumes from my local library. Shout out to the Morgantown Public Library, and read them right on my Kindle. And normally I don't read comic books on the Kindle, but it was a very smooth experience. So usually I use the, what's the app called? The Hoopla app through the library to read any comic books. So very enjoyable experience. Check out Alice Oseman's Heartstopper. Well worth it. Such a good read. I am a fan, and I can't wait to check out more of her work, and I can't wait for Volume 5.